Hey folks, Taylor here. Before we get going with today's show, wanted to let you know that number one, we're going to be talking about the World Cup draw, everything that happened there, all of the many different groups of death. Just kidding. We're also going to talk about MLS playoffs, about Liga MX, and do some scouting reports. But before we get to that, I wanted to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, strength trainers, vegans, and more. They're a life insurance agency that helps provide exclusive rates to help you save money on life insurance, especially if you're healthy, particularly if you're healthy. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/TSS or mention the promo code TSS when you talk to a Health IQ agent. That's healthiq.com/TSS or promo code TSS when you speak to an agent. Now on with today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Darryl Grove, and joining me direct from the group of life, it's Taylor Rockwell and his healed throat. Hello.
Hello, yes, hopefully healed. We'll see how it goes. Right now it sounds good, though, I think. I think. Does it?
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
All right, then we're good.
You sound good. You always sound good to me, Taylor.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
All right, so today is, we're going to look back at the World Cup draw. It happened this morning. We watched it in Fox Sports 1. We saw the Russian folk dancing. We saw Gary Lineker take some cracks at Diego Maradona. And then, and then the balls were drawn and the groups were decided.
They were indeed.
So if you're a short, medium, or long-term listener to the show, you'll know that I am not a fan of the phrase group of death.
No, you're not.
And it seems like a lot of the immediate analysis was to find a group of death.
Yep.
I'm so much against that, I've decided that the way I want to do this, and Taylor's on board, is we're going to go through these groups and try and give them any name except the group of death.
And I want to back up just to say that one of your points, I think the last time we had this conversation, which I'm guessing would be right around 2014 or 2013 maybe, was that if you have to say, well, here's why it's the group of death, then it's not the group of death.
It should be obvious,
and since
right?
there are two groups that maybe are stronger than others, but they're still not strong enough to be considered a group of death, we're sticking with that claim, no group of death this time around.
I just realized before we get into this, we talked about this in studio, but we should probably talk about, again, the absence of the United States.
Sure.
I'm stupid to ask you how that felt, but I guess the question is, was it a weird experience to watch and have no United States, or were you prepared for it?
No, strangely, it wasn't weird because I was just sort of like, yeah, they're not there. Like
right.
it was.
We've known since October 10th, right?
Yes. That said, when Panama got moved around because they couldn't be in the group with Mexico and they got pushed into England's group, so it would have been USA, Belgium, and England in one group together with, I forget who the other team in there is, but it would have been very exciting just as Tunisia. It would have been very exciting just to have like those historical, like knocked out of 2014 by Belgium. We would have had a replay of 2010. It would have been some fun stuff.
The Sun newspaper could have spelled tube. So
I think we were
their job for them.
I think we were Y last time. We were Yanks last time. So I don't know what they would have gone with this time.
They doctor it to fix. But yeah, so obviously sadness for no United States, but we're going to just sort of crack on and talk about the World Cup that is happening with the 32 teams that are there.
Yes.
All right, so as we said, no group of death, but I'm on a mission to maybe pick up some new group ofs that we can get people to use.
Oh, yeah.
So should we start with Group A, Taylor? What are you calling Group A?
I'm calling Group A the group of conspiracy theorists.
Okay, well, let's say who's in it so we give people a nice reminder.
And that would explain why I say that. Russia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Uruguay. As Rory Smith noted for the New York Times, the opening game of the World Cup will be the two worst teams in the tournament according to FIFA rankings. That would be Russia and Saudi Arabia. Nate Silver of 538 added, this is pretty close to the weakest group that Russia could mathematically have drawn. They couldn't do much better if they tried to rig it.
I've got this as the group of... Wait, is this the actual World Cup or is this that NIT thing? Because, it'd be Russia, Saudi Arabia, the opening game.
Yes, the match that everyone has been clamoring for.
I want to say proof that the draw wasn't rigged. Like, you could maybe say Russia would rig it to get Saudi Arabia. They would not be hosting the tournament and have Russia, Saudi Arabia as the opening game. Oh, yes, they might, because then they could win the first game.
Yeah, what are you talking about? That didn't make any sense at all.
This is why I'm not in charge of any investigations.
I see that. I also enjoyed somebody on Reddit commented the opening ceremony will just be exploding barrels of oil for Saudi Arabia and Russia. That seems pretty fitting. But it is. I mean, Saudi Arabia is probably the game that Russia will be most pleased with.
Yep.
Egypt and Uruguay, not necessarily weak teams by any stretch of the imagination, but overall that group is probably the best thing Russia could have hoped for.
I've also got this. This is thanks to Nico Cantor on Twitter. Said that this is essentially the group of South American coaches. Because, okay, outside of Russia, you've got obviously Uruguay, coached by Tavares, Saudi Arabia, coached by Pizzi, who is the Chile coach, who won Copa America Centenario. Yeah, won Copa America Centenario, but failed to qualify for the World Cup. So mixed record there. And Egypt is coached by Hector Cooper, the Argentinian, I believe, manager. So three South American coaches in Group A.
Yep, and I mean, then you've got your kind of usual suspect with Uruguay. You've got the sort of unknowns with Egypt that we'll come to know better as we do a more in-depth preview of each group, which is something we always do before the World Cup. Does that sound good to you, my friend?
It does, yeah. There's going to be teams that we don't know very well. So I really want us to avoid that sort of lazy, they'll be well organised.
They'll be working hard.
Be a surprise.
They'll be determined to get a point.
Let's not do that today, but let's do our research in the future and give people the best possible World Cup previews going forward.
That sounds good to me. Then should we move to Group B?
Yes, I'm calling Group B the group of the also-rans.
Okay.
Because this is a group where it's, on paper, so obvious that Portugal and Spain are going through, and then Morocco and Iran will just be fighting for third place, which I believe gets you into the Europa League Cup.
Yes, that's how it works. I have this as the group of the Moops.
The group of the Moops?
Mm-hmm. Because you've got Morocco, Spain, and Portugal in one group together.
It's the Moors!
And then Iran. That doesn't quite fit. But I also have this as the group of finishing top is probably a good idea. Because if you finish top, you're getting the second place team in Group A, which I'm guessing is going to be one of Russia, Saudi Arabia, or Egypt. You probably don't want to have to go against Uruguay, who are always very tricky.
I also would say the game where the World Cup really gets going in terms of big names is going to be that first matchup, Portugal-Spain, which is on the second day of the World Cup. Yep. And that's also going to have a lot riding on it because of that who's going to finish top of the group thing. Are we being disrespectful to Morocco and Iran here?
I mean, in the sense that we don't really know anything about Morocco or Iran. We know a few little bits and pieces here, but we can't say enough to say they're other than to say they're the dark horses. They're the ones that people don't know about. And
again, I don't want to do that.
And we live in the modern world where it's not as though it's impossible to find footage of Morocco and Iran the way it was 40 years ago. Nowadays, it would be very difficult to be unprepared for those teams. The thing that I would disagree with you though is that I don't know if Portugal-Spain is necessarily guaranteed to be a good game, because I think for the reason you said, they both know. If one of us loses, it puts us in second place automatically.
You think
basically,
teams will be cautious to start with.
Yeah, the teams are always cautious to start. That's how it always works.
Start to the World Cup.
And so in that one, basically, I could see them both kind of sitting off a little bit, being a little bit more cautious, knowing that maybe you get a better goal difference against Morocco and Iran. Maybe that helps you out.
How about Group C then? Group C is France, Australia, Peru, Denmark.
The group of France.
The group of France.
Yes. I mean, that's basically it. Again, this is probably the
Christian
draw.
Eriksen begs to differ.
I mean, that's fine. But I'm going to say Peru were one of the weakest teams in Pot 2. They've got to be pleased with that, them being France. Mm-hmm. Australia do not currently have a manager. France have to be pleased with that. And France kind of historically seem to get weaker groups. Once again, they have this time. So I think they'll probably be pretty happy given the other teams that they could have gotten.
Okay, so I've called this the group of Australasian revenge.
Okay.
Because Peru were the team that knocked out New Zealand. Mm-hmm. So if Australia want to do their sort of Kiwi cousins a favour, they could exact revenge on Peru in the group stage.
You think that's how it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's one possible interpretation of this group.
Yes.
The group of Australasian revenge.
Yes.
It's a real region, look it up.
And I'm excited out of all these. I know Peru surprised in qualifying. I know Australia have a lot to prove and a lot to figure out. I'm excited to see that France-Denmark game. I think that's going to be a pretty captivating one.
Yeah, okay,
Which will be the final match day game of that group, that is.
I'm into that. I hope there's something riding on that. That would be good.
Ideally.
All right, on to Group D. What are you calling Group D, Taylor?
I'm going to call this the group of balance.
The group of balance?
Yes.
I'm calling it the group of contrast, but let's hear yours first.
Okay. I mean, it's basically just that you have, reasons to be optimistic for every team in this group, and then there are also reasons to be slightly questioning of every team in this group.
Okay.
I mean, Argentina are Argentina, but then also struggled mightily in qualifying. It means they have Leo Messi. They have all the players that you know. I mean, you could go through the list of players that play for Argentina.
Yeah.
They play for the best teams in the world. And so they're very, very good, but then historically, collectively, they don't play as well. In qualifying, they struggled. So you kind of wonder which Argentina team is going to show up. Is it going to be one that tries to prove the world wrong and make something happen, or is it going to be one that falls apart? Jorge Sampaoli did not look too pleased with his draw, so maybe he is also a little bit hesitant about the teams they'll be facing. Then you've got sort of Iceland, who impressed at the Euros, obviously, and I think people are going to be kind of lazy in their analysis of they're going to be hard-fought and disciplined, but that won't really work. They're going to have to change things, so it could work really well for them, or they could try to adjust stuff, and that could go poorly. Croatia, are Croatia. Again, that's the same thing as Argentina, where there's lots of individual talent, but they tend to struggle to bring it all together on like those major international tournaments. And Nigeria, probably the best team out of pot 4, in my opinion, at least. So you've kind of got 4 good teams in there, but again, none of them are like so amazing, or like no 2 of them are so amazing that it really qualifies to that next level of group of death. This is right below it, the group of balance.
I mean, Argentina are my picks to win this whole thing.
It's controversial.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that.
Not controversial, but that is a bold pick.
I'm calling this the group of contrasts.
Sure.
Because this is probably the group that has the biggest contrast between the 4 different teams. As you said, Argentina, all the big names and a sort of famous coach, right? Messi and Sampaoli. Iceland are kind of stodgy and direct, so it's a very different style. Croatia are nice and technical, right? With Modric.
Glad we're staying away from cliches here.
Modric and Rakitic. And then Nigeria, I think, of a team of youth.
Yep. So
many young players. You think it's going to be like Iheanacho, Iwobi, Ndidi. These guys are all like 20, 21. The goalkeeper, whose name escapes me right now, he plays for Ajax. I think you know him. He's a really young goalkeeper, right? He's in his early 20s.
He was on my Africa draft team.
Yeah, so many youngsters on this team. So yeah, I think there's going to be a real contrast in that group. I think that's going to make for some really interesting matchups.
It's the group that I'm second most excited to watch.
On to Group E, Taylor. What are you calling Group E? It's Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica, and Serbia.
The group of goal difference.
The group of goal difference.
Because I think Brazil are going to score a lot of goals in this one, and then you've kind of got everybody else battling for second place. And I think what we've seen from all of these teams at different points is sort of sitting back, being defensive, not really being that adventurous. And again, I think because in the World Cup, you're always a little bit hesitant at first because you don't want to go down 4-0 in the first game and suddenly you've really got to work. I feel like we could see a lot of like 0-0, 1-1s out of that one, and it ends in goal difference for the second place team.
I think this is going to be, maybe for similar reasons, this is going to be the group of why are Costa Rica so hard to break down in multiple languages. It'll be in Portuguese in Brazil. It'll be in German, French, and Italian for Switzerland. And it'll be in Serbian for Serbia. Because I think, obviously, we're familiar with Costa Rica from playing against them so many times. I feel like the rest of the world isn't as familiar. So there's a lot of national media in Brazil, Switzerland, and Serbia will suddenly be very surprised by Costa Rica's sort of back 3, back 5, like lots of men in midfield, and being very good at making that happen situation. So yeah, the group of why are Costa Rica so tough to beat.
I'm also going to go out on a limb here with a specific prediction of the group that's probably guaranteed to have a red card. I guess the group that's guaranteed to have a red card, specifically because you've got Switzerland v. Serbia. As we know, there are a lot of like ethnic Albanians and ethnic Kosovars who play for Switzerland. Play against Serbia.
Kosovans?
I forget what it is.
I'm saying Kosovan.
Okay, that works.
Right.
Either way, you've got a lot of like kind of ethnic regional tension there that I think maybe could boil over, especially if one of the teams is like up 1-0 or 2-0 in the 89th minute. Maybe you see just a little bit of a kick out from somebody against somebody else.
All right, Group F. Group F is Germany, Mexico, Sweden, and the South Korea. Sorry, I got confused between Korean Republic and South Korea.
The Republic of Korea.
That's it, the Republic of Korea. Germany, Mexico, Sweden, and the Republic of Korea.
They do not call themselves South Korea,
they
as
do
I
not.
once learned from a Korean diplomat.
That's what tripped me up. Yeah. So what are you calling this, Tyler?
The group Taylor's most excited to watch.
I don't think that's going to catch on around the world.
No.
Unless your profile increases significantly.
All right, let's work on that in the next couple months.
So why are you the most excited to watch this group?
Because I think it's the one that, it's the other one that is maybe the competitor for Group of Death, if you were going to make that argument.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's Germany.
Yep.
We know Germany is pretty good. It's Sweden, who we went back and looked at some of their results in qualification. If you take away some of the goals scored against weaker teams, they did sort of struggle to score against some of the better teams, but it's still a team that kept the Netherlands out and then eliminated Italy from World Cup competition in that playoff. So we know that they are stronger than maybe people might think.
They're very good at heading balls away.
That works for me. Mexico, again, it's Mexico. We know them. They're very, very good. Finished top of CONCACAF.
Yeah.
But it's still sort of like we don't know what to expect from Juan Carlos Osorio.
So I think actually this is going to be the introduction to the world in a big stage for a lot of talented Mexican players. Like Chucky Lozano. Okay, so he's playing in the Netherlands, so he doesn't have the highest profile around the world because not everybody is watching the Eredivisie. But, we've seen enough of him and we've been scared of him whenever the US come up against him. I think a lot of countries are going to find it out, and a lot of people around the world will be watching the World Cup and they'll be like, wait, who is this? This might be the group of Premier League teams putting big bids in for Chucky Lozano.
But that's what I mean is like it's sort of, but then we go back to Juan Carlos Osorio for a moment and you never know. Is it going to be a back 3, a back 5, a back 6, a back 12? I don't know what he's going to do.
Whatever he does, Chucky's got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, true. But I just think
that's
it's
probably
more
going to
like
be a whole debate amongst Mexican fans. Why isn't he starting?
Yeah. But it might be like you might see this formation against Germany and then a completely different one against South Korea.
10 minutes later in the game against Germany?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that is really captivating. And frankly, I know
Group
almost...
of tactics. This could be the group of tactics. Yogi Löw and Juan Carlos Osorio love a tactical surprise.
And then I think South Korea are one of the teams that I know the least about in this
same
tournament, just because I think it's that thing with Iceland as well, where when a team stands out for one big tournament, which admittedly was 2002, a decent amount of time ago, you tend to get that team locked in your head as like, that's who they are, that's how they play. And then it's like, what? Ji-sung Park isn't there? Like, yeah, he's been retired for a while. And so it's another team that I'm excited to learn about because, you know, they're there. They qualified easily. They didn't have to get a playoff or anything like that.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be a group of contrasting styles, of different players, of unknown names, but then of the known names. So I think for all those reasons, it's the one I'm most excited to watch.
I'm also calling it the group of people saying, wait, which team does Jürgen Damm play for again?
That's a good one.
All right, Group G. Group G is Belgium, Panama, Tunisia, and England. So this is obviously, for me, watching the draw this morning, this was the thing I was most nervous/excited about. Gotta say, I'm pretty happy. It's the group of Darryl being pretty happy with.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I feel like I filmed it. I don't know if I'm going to post it or not, but we were very confident that England were going to draw Germany.
Yeah.
That just seemed to be the way it was going because you'd avoided Argentina, you'd avoided Brazil. It felt like it was coming, and then you ended up getting Belgium, which you were sort of like, that's bad.
I think it's bad because it doesn't have the Belgium doesn't have the cachet of playing like Brazil, Argentina, Germany, Spain, or whatever. But they probably do have the talent, and so I feel like England should be more worried than they probably are, if that makes sense. It's also going to be the group of annoying newspaper articles about England playing Eden Hazard. There's going to be a lot of focus on Eden Hazard just because there is so much focus on him in the English press, right? So, it's also the group of English media either doing a lot of research to figure out something about Panama and Tunisia or none.
Yep. And that's why I have this one as the group of known unknowns and then actual unknowns. Because like Belgium and England have questions about who fits into the roster and how do they fit in.
Yeah.
But you still know who all the players are, but it's still like some question marks around the roster. I'd say you and I know Panama very well, and we kind of have an expectation of who's going to be in that Panama squad.
Yeah.
But I'd say a lot of media outlets around the world do not. And so it is going to be that sort of like, they've got that guy who plays for Seattle and that other guy who gets fouled a lot but really isn't fouled.
Someone's going to be very surprised because they're going to think Roman Torres is like old and fat and then they're going to get knocked over by him.
Yep.
Someone's going to be equally surprised when Blas Perez does something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, John Stones is going to get like an elbow in the ribs and then like react to Blas Perez and get sent off. And someone's getting CONCACAF'd, basically. Someone from outside of CONCACAF is getting CONCACAF'd by Blas Perez when he comes on for the last 10 minutes.
Yes. And then
I'm just assuming he makes the roster. Kind of makes sense, right?
I feel like he can't have played for as long as he has, as hard as he has, worked as much as he has to not be in that squad.
It's like he spent decades trying to get Panama to the World Cup, so he deserves to go. Right?
Yeah, I feel like they need to wrap him in bubble wrap for the next few months because it reminds me of like Beckham in 2010 World Cup where he was like really, really working to be in shape to be able to make it. And then blew out his Achilles, I think it was, or ruptured his Achilles.
Right.
That's why he had to miss it. So maybe Panama just want to take care of Blas Perez. Not that they're the most dependent on him. If anything, he'll probably be an impact sub.
No, it's more just a great story, right? He could be like the Roger Miller of this World Cup.
Yes. So they're like right on the line of being an unknown because a lot of people know them, but a lot of people don't. Yeah. And then Tunisia, again, I genuinely, we looked at their roster. It's tough to know much about them, how they play, who the players are, so we'll learn more about them.
Yeah, again, worth saying, we are not going to pretend that we know about teams that we don't know about. By the time the World Cup runs around, we will be nerdy enough and will have read enough and watched enough to really know these teams. We're going to offer you some really good World Cup previews.
Yep.
All right, Group H, the final group, is Poland with a seeded team, Senegal, Colombia, Japan. What do you have this as, Taylor?
The group of dark horses.
The group of dark horses.
And I mean that in quotation marks because I feel like you're going to see an article written about every single one of these four teams as a possible dark horse candidate.
As in could go 5.
Yes, and I think that's because this group is wide open. Like it really, you could pick any one of these two teams to make it through and I think be justified in doing so. But I think also there are reasons to not know much about them or to not really have confidence if they were in maybe a group with one stronger team that maybe you're not quite so confident. So I just think because they're all kind of open because anybody can qualify, you're going to hear a lot about Poland could make a deep run, but Senegal might be the African team that goes the farthest. Colombia, though, you could just see all of these arguments being made.
I see Sadio Mane scoring a lot of goals.
Correct.
Yeah. Just because that's what he does,
yep.
right?
I've also said from researching them a little bit that this is, right now I'm leaning towards, since I don't have the United States. I will root for England, obviously. And then I think I might be leaning towards Senegal a little bit.
Why so?
I don't know. I was looking at their roster, looking at their past rosters, and just seeing it's a lot of like, oh yeah, him. Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's exciting.
So,
that'll be fun.
Koulibaly, the Napoli centre-back, is kind of a big name.
Yes, Idrissa Gueye, who plays for Everton, he's going to be like the tough tackling
busting
defender.
Things up in
as you said, Sadio Mane. Lots of other names in there that we like.
Who's
again,
the guy like Keita Balde?
Keita Balde, who plays for Monaco, formerly Lazio. Yeah,
slight troublemaker, but all kinds of skill.
And that's what I mean. Is like the more you look at some of these teams, the more you're going to be like, okay, I could see that happening. I could see them making the quarterfinals.
So I'm suddenly excited about the World Cup in a way that I wasn't when I was thinking of watching Russia, Saudi Arabia on June 14th.
And I don't know if it's because I know you're going to tease me for this one, but I don't know if this is because it's the actual draw. But I looked at a bunch of those like fake draws, like draw simulators and stuff, and I
stayed away from those.
And I was not excited by any. I really wasn't excited by any of them. They were always like, oh, that group's going to be terrible.
You know what it is? It's because you don't start thinking deeper. When you do a draw simulator, you don't, because it's not real. You don't think about actual things that could happen.
Yeah.
So now that we have the actual draw, you can drill deeper into
that makes more sense because I really am. I look at this and I'm like, yeah, this is like I am good with this. Other than Group A, I wish there was maybe a little bit more exciting game to start that tournament.
And of course, we wish there were more stars and stripes.
That would be
somewhere
ideal
on this board that we're looking at.
It did feel really weird to not have, because you think back to like the teams that really like exploded or imploded at previous World Cups, and to not have some of those teams there is pretty surprising. Because you think about Chile, the Netherlands, Italy as well.
Yep.
Missing out, it's kind of weird.
Okay, more to talk about the World Cup and Major League Soccer playoffs when we get back. But first, today's show is sponsored by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, strength trainers, vegans, and more. And the more includes soccer players. Because soccer players fall under runners, right? If you run at least 10 miles a week, you qualify for Health IQ's special rates on life insurance.
Alrighty. So with that in mind, we want to look maybe back at some of these teams and players and think maybe who might be doing the most running at the World Cup?
Yeah, which player do you think, or which team do you think is going to do the most running in Russia?
I thought it might be Iceland just because I felt like Argentina, Croatia, and Nigeria are going to be a little bit more open. But then what that means is that they're actually going to be sitting back and being a bit more defensive. So I'm going to instead change it, and I'm just going to go straight up N'Golo Kante. Because why not?
Because he just will.
Well, it's because I could just see the exact same thing I just said. Like Australia sitting back a little bit, Peru sitting back a little bit, Denmark being a little bit more cautious, which means them booting the ball, and it's going to be Kante like sprinting back to get it and bring it back into the attack.
He'll be recycling the ball,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because the guy I picked is essentially the new N'Golo Kante in many ways. Wilfred Ndidi plays for Nigeria. I think obviously he's going to be up against some good teams. If he's chasing around,
I should have seen this coming because I was like, where did he pull Wilfred Ndidi from before when you were listing Nigerian players?
Pulled him from Leicester.
There you go.
If he's chasing around like Modric and Rakitic passes, we could just have Wilfred Ndidi chasing Modric in one big circle as Modric just keeps turning and turning and turning.
Yeah.
That could be 90 minutes. He could be chasing Icelandic long balls, tracking them down, and he could just be trying to follow someone like Leo Messi around as Argentina zip the ball about Jorge Sampaoli style. So Wilfred Ndidi to cover the most ground at the World Cup.
And then I would say maybe Saudi Arabia's goalkeeper, but it's a very short walk from the goal line to the back of the net and back. So I think he'll be okay.
Honestly, I'm not confident being so down on Saudi Arabia because even though I don't know much about them, they qualified out of Asia.
You're right. And this is, again, where past tournaments come into play. It did not help for me that the person who began the ceremonies for this draw was Miroslav Klose, who scored, I believe, 65 goals against Saudi Arabia.
I think it was, all his World Cup goals. Did he have like 15, 16
But there was like the one that stands out was like 8-1 or 7-1 or something like that in 2002. So I think it's just sort of like the last time we saw them, they were savaged.
It's the Miroslav Klose legacy game.
So that's what sticks out of my head. Although Miroslav Klose, as far as I know, will not be playing for Russia or Egypt or Uruguay.
All right, so we should refocus on Health IQ. The idea is if you are genuinely in good shape, you will qualify to get lower life insurance rates with Health IQ. Health IQ is trusted by many sporting organizations, including USA Weightlifting, the Roadrunners Club of America, US Masters Swimming, USA Triathlon, Tennis Industry Association, American Trail Running Association, and USA Racquetball. You'll notice there is no FIFA or US Soccer on that list. I'm taking that as a positive sign for Health IQ. They're careful about who they get involved with.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing about Health IQ is that when it comes to family history, that can always be a problem when you're looking at life insurance. But basically, because it's like tailored towards people who are fit and healthy and active, it removes some of that issue from family history.
As I understand it, it's the things that life insurance companies will normally penalize you for, like family history. If you prove that that does not affect you and you can, you run 10 miles a week, it doesn't matter if a family member had a history of this or that. It's about how healthy you are and whether or not you qualify for lower life insurance with Health IQ.
So to see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/TSS or mention the promo code TSS when you talk to a Health IQ agent. Worth noting that it helps to actually go to that domain, healthiq.com/TSS, as opposed to, say, Googling Health IQ, because then they don't know that we sent you there.
Yeah, let them know that we're the ones that sent you there by going to healthiq.com/TSS, or just click the link in the show notes and then you can see if you qualify for a free quote and a lower rate.
So thank you to Health IQ for sponsoring today's show. Before we get to maybe other content closer to home, shall we look a bit more at this World Cup draw for a moment?
Yeah. So we've gone group by group, but now taking a step back, when you look at it, who do you think got lucky? Like who's the most happy, the happiest, I believe is how you phrase that, with their World Cup draw?
Russia. 100%. Yeah. I mean, 100%.
But wasn't Russia always going to be it was always going to be a good draw as long as they didn't get Spain or England from part 2?
Again, I think when you have Nate Silver saying that this is like mathematically the best draw they could have possibly gotten, I'm going to say they're pretty happy with that.
Today's show also sponsored by 538.com.
Yeah, we're good on that. I'd say Russia, and then I would also add France. I think France, just looking at the group and who they could have had. I mean, they could have had Spain in there. They could have had Nigeria, as we've talked about. They could have gotten England. Like, it could have been a really difficult draw for them to basically end up where they did with just Australia, Peru, and Denmark. Not to say that those teams won't be difficult to break down, just saying that they'll probably be slightly easier than some of the other opponents out there.
I'm actually going to say that Egypt should be happiest with their draw.
Yeah,
so think of it this way. Egypt are with Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay in Group A. Egypt were in Part 3, right? Part 3 is a group where you could have had Brazil and Spain in your group, for example. They got Russia and Uruguay, and then from Part 4 they got Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So even though they were from a lower pot, they've surrounded themselves with things that aren't too much of a challenge compared to how it could have been.
They'll probably be the one that also like sneaks under the radar a little bit out of that.
Because they haven't been to World Cups previously or recently. They've been previously. They haven't been recently, so that people don't think of them as a successful World Cup team.
Not even for that, but because it's like Russia are the hosts, they're going to get a lot of attention. Saudi Arabia have not the greatest record, and it's sort of like Russia, Saudi Arabia, the worst teams possible. So that's going to be focused on. Uruguay have all of the history of Uruguay, from Luis Suarez to Edson Cavani. Diego Forlan, I think, won't be there. I could be wrong. I'm kidding. He will not be there. But so I just feel like they're all going to get the headlines, and Egypt are going to be like, oh, yeah, and Egypt there too.
And just slowly sneak into second place or first place. Yeah. Okay, who got the worst draw? Who got the worst draw of all? Who wants this whole thing to be redone? I'm
not sure there's anybody who wants it completely redone, but of the ones who will probably be least pleased, I think their coach's face said it all. It's probably Argentina.
Argentina. Oh, because it is sort of a group with a lot of... The thing I was getting at with the group of contrast is essentially Argentina are going to face three very different hurdles.
We think,
but that's true of every single team in that group, right? It's just like, we've got to figure this out. We've got to figure... Because Iceland's like a special challenge, for example. Yeah. You've got to figure that out. Yeah,
but again, I mean, this is why I said the group of balance. Like, I think it is, if you were going to make that argument, the closest to a group of death we have. And so I think whenever you have that, if you're the team that maybe came in there from pot 1 and ends up being like, ooh, they're good, ooh, they're good, ooh, they're good, you probably think, I would have minded getting a, like, okay, well, at least that one's a little bit easier.
My team that I think got the unluckiest is maybe Peru. So Peru were in pot 2, which is kind of an achievement in terms of their ranking in the world. You wouldn't automatically put them in part 2. Then they got France, who's going to be, I think, is going to be a very good team. Even if they're not a great team, they're still going to have a lot of great players coming out, right? Like Pogba and Mbappe. And then from the lower parts, they got Australia and Denmark, and those were both towards the top of the lower parts. So I think Peru got kind of unlucky in terms of who they got drawn with.
We'll see. I still have a lot of question marks about Australia, so we'll see what happens.
Like who is the coach?
That's a big one.
Maybe this will turn out to be a masterstroke where Australia can wait until now they've got the group, they can hire their coach accordingly.
Sure. But I mean,
let's pretend there's that much forethought went into it.
It's still going to be a team that is heavily reliant on Tim Cahill, who at that point is probably going to be 38 in time for the World Cup to start. So never the best of signs.
It's still going to be the group of people being surprised that Tim Cahill outjumped them.
Yes. At least once or twice.
All right. So what's the most exciting group stage game that you're looking at?
The obvious candidate is Portugal-Spain, but I really don't think it's going to be as exciting as we want it to be. And if anything, I'm just trying to downplay that because
you don't want to get your hopes up.
I don't want to get my hopes up and then have it be rough. I'm excited for Germany-Mexico, I have to say.
Yes, that's on my list too. I think it's a nice contrast of styles almost. And it's a thing of... We rate Mexico very highly from what we see of them in CONCACAF, so it's kind of the real measure of how good can Mexico really be at this World Cup is going to come very early when they play Germany, right? Yep. So yeah, it'd be a good way to get the test of Mexico. I've got Germany, Mexico, England, Belgium is obviously one I'm looking forward to. It's the final game in Group G, so obviously it's too early to know what will be riding on that game, but it's still a matchup I'm really excited about. Yeah, so that's my one, England, Belgium.
All right, there we are.
What about possible knockout games? Like gaming this out, it's normally like first in A plays second in B and so on. What if you've like mathematically worked it out? What's a game you might be looking forward to happening?
I mean, I have not mathematically worked it out, so I'm going to stall for time.
Okay, well, I'll tell you mine then while you stall. It's possible that if one of them finishes second in their group, that we see France v Argentina. It's possible that if Brazil wins their group and Mexico comes second in their group, we get Brazil-Mexico. Brazil-Mexico is quite the game. And it's also very possible that we get England-Colombia in the second round. I feel like that's one of those things where a game against Colombia based on England's history is a game that I feel like they're capable of winning because any time they play an actual top-tier team in a knockout round, they get knocked out.
And I do think that this
is... They take knockout round way too literally.
I'm with you on that. But I think it's also interesting that like because of the way... Because you don't have some of the teams we've already talked about being at this tournament, you don't have so many... Like Portugal, Spain is really one of those only groups where you've got two like heavy hitters in one group. And so normally, I think part of the reason why I'm having difficulty answering this is because you would have like France and Argentina in one group and Brazil and Germany in one group. And then it's like, ooh, no matter what, you're going to have some crazy teams in the knockout round. This time around, like you might have that because you never can expect the favorite team to go through as one, the second favorite to go through as two.
Do you have an answer though?
You're always going to have some wrinkles. So no, I mean, I think you've hit them. I think it is it's probably like Brazil-Mexico, I think is a decent shout for what could end up happening. And I think that would be fascinating for many of the same reasons why Mexico-Germany will be fascinating to me as well.
Okay. I'll also put a note that if Russia goes through, if they go through at home, then they're very likely facing a really tough round of 16 game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Russia get their ass handed to them by Portugal or Spain in the round of 16.
The only reason why I might disagree with that is because in the Euros, it's not as though Portugal ever truly blew the doors off of anybody. It was a much more sort of like consistent, comprehensive Portugal team.
That's true.
So I like, if anything, I see Portugal winning that game 1-0 and it being sort of like, yeah, okay, they won, and like, yeah, that's what happened.
And then the Russian players kind of leave with some honor.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that could happen. All right. Why don't we leave this segment with some honor and move on to talk Major League Soccer playoffs. It was the second legs. It was Toronto, Columbus, and it was Seattle, Houston. Obviously, we'll come back to the World Cup many, many times between now and June.
I'd say so.
Okay, Seattle are through. Toronto are through. Let's start with Toronto.
Sure.
It was Josie Altidore doing something that could really be described as heroic, and for some reason it didn't fill me with great feelings. And I just realised that if this had happened the night before a World Cup draw that the USA was in, we'd be raving about this today. We'd be raving about Altidore's goal when he sort of was injured and came back on and scored almost immediately. We'd be raving about Michael Bradley's off-the-line clearance. But instead, it has a real feel of, one, what could have been, and two, why couldn't you guys do that in Trinidad?
You mean his tackle?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I would say the same thing for like Jordan Morris coming back in the Seattle game.
Yes.
It sort of would have been more like, okay, he's back. Like, maybe he'll be able to play. Maybe he'll return to fitness. And you don't have that sort of added incentive. You don't have that thing to keep you interested. So unless you are a fan of those teams, as a neutral, it's more like, oh, okay, yeah, that was fine.
There's a different timeline where everything that happened in Toronto is really exciting for the World Cup. But I guess we do need to leave it behind and just focus on the game.
Well, we do, but before we do, I wanted to add, though, but like I think you're absolutely right that even if you look at the way people reacted to that Josie Altidore goal, Toronto fans are like, this is amazing, this is heroic, he came back on, and like every other response was like, why can't he do this for the U.S.? Why can't? And it's still that sort of, it's going to be there forever, but I don't think it's worth focusing on right now because instead we've got a rematch of last year's final, so we should talk about how that happened.
Okay, so Josie Altidore is accidentally injured by I'm going to call it a Harrison Afful foul.
Yep.
It's a foul, right? But he slips and accidentally slides himself into the back of Josie Altidore in the area.
I don't see. That's the question. Is that a foul then? If it's like a legitimate slip,
this is the conversation I wanted to start.
It's like away from the ball.
Yeah.
it doesn't affect play. I don't know how that works.
I guess not, since nothing was called. Right? Maybe some referees will correct us on that.
We did wonder that for a moment of like, wait, but that's in the box. Yeah.
I guess the ball wasn't coming towards Josie,
that's
so
the thing.
It's not important, right?
I think if it had been, I think it probably does get called, and it is a penalty.
So obviously completely not deliberate, unless Harrison Afful planned ahead to sort of have the wrong size cleats or something. But he comes sliding into Josie.
Your proud history of pronouncing that man's last name a variety of different ways continues. So good job there.
So we thought Josie was done.
Yep.
He was off on the sideline. He came back on and was hobbling around. It had all the signs to me of, he tried to come back on. It didn't work out, right? I really thought that's where we were going. And then instead, it ends with Josie playing a 1-2 with Vasquez at the top of the box and burying it into the far corner. Or the far side netting.
Adrenaline isn't a heck of a thing. Because then he runs off and celebrates and does like the big jump in the air and lands on what I have to assume was a sprained ankle.
Right, because he was limping around before. There was a couple of headers he kind of didn't go for. You saw him just like nod his head at something where he was nowhere close to getting. And even before he got on the end of before he scored, wasn't there a through ball or like a direct ball where instead of challenging in the air for it, he just kind of bodies or pushes someone and just does what he can without leaving the floor, essentially.
I mean, yeah, but I think that's more so gamesmanship of like, I'm probably not going to win this one, but I'll give him a little bit of a nudge so he doesn't win it as clean. Yeah. But then the sequence that leads to the goal starts with Josie Altidore like basically like making a really smart pass and being very mobile.
Yeah, right. He's suddenly mobile.
Yeah.
Is there any chance he was faking?
No.
Trying to just get Columbus
Stop trying to make fake narratives. No.
Trying to get Columbus to think, he's injured. He won't be able to make a quick 1-2 at the top of the box.
No.
All right.
I'm not going with you with that at all.
Good chat.
Yeah.
All right, so well done to Josie Altidore. Obviously, he's going to be dangerous at MLS Cup as well.
Well, I want to say, but like, all of that is worth pointing out, but the finish itself is really good. It's a 1-2 that he gets, but it's a very tight angle, and he finishes it like in the exact spot he had to hit it to be able to finish it into that far corner.
It felt like a video game type thing, you know, and you've sort of got the timing down of exactly when you have to hit it and where you have to hit it.
Yeah.
It seems like he had that going on.
Yeah, he and Will Bruin had that timing down pretty well.
We'll talk about Will Bruin in a minute. I want to talk about that Michael Bradley tackle.
Sure.
I can't remember who it was on. I called it an off-the-line clearance because it had that feel to me.
That feel of desperation, yeah.
Because he was, like, where did he get that acceleration from?
He's just been saving it up for the last few months.
He ran over one of those Mario Kart things.
Apparently.
The double arrows.
I mean, or maybe he got the mushroom, which makes you like all powerful. Because even that tackle, like he wins that tackle, but then keeps the ball inbounds, even though he gets then tackled by his own goalkeeper. But I mean, he closes a good 40 yards to be involved in the play in the first place. But then the final 10 yards, he closes on a player who should have shot first time, or maybe second time, or maybe third time. He had that much time on the ball.
I can't remember who.
But Bradley does a really good job to get across, get that tackle in cleanly.
The position he's in, I think it might be Justin Merrim, but I'm not confident in saying that.
He did apologize afterwards for not taking an early chance. I saw that on Twitter. So I'm wondering if maybe that's what that was in regards to, because I think that was in the 21st minute or so.
And of course, Columbus Crew, I wanted them to win MLS Cup, like just to sink the move to Austin, essentially.
I still don't think it would have, but I'm with you.
I'm hoping that enough attention has been drawn to it through the playoffs.
It is like, I still don't really know where we are with that, because it still seems sort of like it's a foregone conclusion, but that not everything is done.
Well, it seems like Precourt hasn't been sort of dissuaded, put it that way, right?
Yeah,
and there's been no word from Major League Soccer that they are going to sort of help Columbus fans.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean.
Anyway.
Yeah, it seems like he knows what he wants to do, and at this point, kind of, I think in his mind probably can't go back on that, because I don't think Columbus fans are ever going to be like, yep, he's our guy now. Yeah. Like, it's going to have to be move or sell.
So here's what I would say. Now that Columbus are out of MLS playoffs, it's actually more important for people to keep making noise and keep the pressure up so that Don Garber can't kind of... and also that happened last week. You know, they can't like just let that slide away and suddenly it's happened and no one stops it. You've got to keep complaining. You've got to keep telling other Major League Soccer owners and teams that we will not stand for this. Like, keep the pressure on. SaveTheCrew.com. If you go there, there'll be places to you can sign up to essentially send emails to everyone who needs to get your emails.
Because as we all know, decisions made behind more or less closed doors, like as fast as possible, never end up backfiring in the long term. And we'll leave it at that.
I don't know what you could be referring to. Okay, the other game was... It was over before it even began.
Pretty much. But then it was over once it began.
Yep, and then it was over once it began as well. As soon as Rodriguez scored the first goal for Seattle, off the Will Bruin sort of... a bit of Will Bruin magic, I'm going to call it, this game was over. When Martinez was sent off... for slamming. I've forgotten their player's name, for slamming a head into the floor.
Yep.
It was over. And then when the next 2 goals went in, it was very much over. It was over 4 times.
Yeah, I don't know where I want to start with it, so I'm going to start with the red card because I was surprised. Ian Dark and Taylor Twellman were both like, "Oh, that's never a red card. There's no reason for that to be a red card. It came about through VAR." But to me, it's like the guy's on the ground, facing the ground as he tries to get up. If you shove his face back into the ground from the back of his head, like give like a big push, like that's violent conduct. You're hitting the back of his head. That's a red card.
And also, that Seattle turf's not that soft.
No, I was just
Thierry Henry.
I was just surprised by that because and even then, it's also like it's retaliation. Like basically, the player falls on him, he gets up and he's angry, goes over, and it's not like in the heat of the moment.
Kind of tabletopped him as well.
Yeah,
is the reason he went down. Yeah.
So I was just really surprised by that because again, it's not like in the heat of the moment, like he got a rough challenge and kind of got up and shoved the guy a little bit. It's like the guy landed on top of him accidentally. He got up, walked over, shoved his head into the ground. That all seems like it's grounds for a red card.
Off you go, Martinez.
There we go.
Off you go. Worth noting, for the first goal, Will Bruin not offside.
No.
We freeze-framed it here in the office. It's very, very close.
It is.
But he's being kept onside by the right back, whose name is...
I believe Dylan Remick.
I'm glad you made notes. Dylan Remick, who I kind of feel like both Dempsey and Will Bruin were essentially victimizing. They were just in behind that Houston defense and just looking across, knowing that Dylan Remick was sort of letting them be way behind the rest of the defenders.
Yes, and I think, that speaks to the number of players that Houston didn't have involved, either through suspension or illness or injury, and so it looked very much like a defense that was like, this should do, right? And then very quickly it was erratic and sort of stretched and sort of torn apart.
Very few straight lines, but also attempting to play offside.
Yeah, not great. Yeah, not really the approach you want to take on that one.
Not a good combo.
No, especially not with players like Clint Dempsey and Nico Ladero in there who can shred, and then apparently Will Bruin who can also shred as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and he can chip. Will Bruin can chip. So I think it's the third goal that really puts the final nail in the coffin that's already nailed very tightly shut.
Yeah.
When Bruin gets that through ball, it's
Harry
one
Shipp.
touch, right? Yeah, Shipp puts it in for him. It's absolutely. It looks like early but perfect, and I think it takes the goalkeeper by surprise.
Why do you say that?
But just because it just didn't seem like the move. Like, I don't know if it's maybe Will Bruin's reputation. He's not like, people don't think of him as like.
Oh, you mean the chip itself?
Yeah.
I think you meant the ball. Yeah, I mean it's the goalkeeper's out, so I think
Joe Willis was the keeper, former Richmond kicker.
I don't think there's anything else like he could have done, Joe Willis, because really. If Will Bruin takes a touch, I think he's there to smother it and block it out. I think he just never expects that it's going to be that delicate little chip that just lifts it over his hands. And I think part of that is because Joe Willis hasn't really gotten himself into the best position possible. He hasn't done the De Gea arms up but feet down, knees down. He's done the sort of like he's come out and dropped to his knees, but he's kept his hands low. So then there's space on either side to chip that ball past, and that's exactly what Will Bruin does.
Are you blaming Joe Willis?
No, I mean, it's a great through ball, and he's left 1v1. I think I go back to my U12 coach who told me when I was playing goalkeeper that if the goalkeeper gets scored on, there are 10 other players who are also at fault.
I believe that's fair.
Yeah.
I believe that's fair. That will definitely feature later in today's scouting reports.
Yeah.
We could maybe hope as well that goalkeepers and defenders are off their game when we get a repeat of MLS Cup 2016. Last time round it finished 0-0. Last time it was Toronto-Seattle, with Seattle winning on penalty kicks. Can we hope, I want to hope for something more entertaining next weekend in Toronto.
I mean, yeah, the highlight of that game was the Stephen Fry save, very late, the dramatic save. I would much prefer there
Seattle no shots on target, I believe.
I think that is also correct. Yes, I would hope for a little bit more attacking game. Maybe like a 2-1 or a 3-2. That'd be fine.
Should we? Can we commit to giving this game some special attention? Yeah, we'll do a proper big tactical preview of Toronto Seattle because there's lots of sort of big names and exciting players involved. Maybe part of the preview can be how can this game be exciting?
Sure, and I think my answer to that, I'll give you my preview right now, is Jovan Jones because he has the great ball for Clint Dempsey for the second goal, but is also just involved all the time, always. And including getting into some shoving matches. He doesn't let his teammates' heads get slammed to the floor. So, I mean, I think he's going to be heavily involved, and I'm excited to see him and his blonde hair involved in the MLS Cup final.
For the final time, right? He's off to Darmstadt after this season. Okay, also playoffs were going on down in Mexico. Liga MX was Jonathan Gonzalez, future US men's national team defensive midfielder for the next 20 years, playing for Monterrey away to Morelia. They won the first leg 1-0. Johnny Gonzalez not involved in the goal, so we don't have anything to report there. Second leg is coming this weekend, this Sunday night.
So we're just giving it a delicate mention before we move on.
Delicate mention, but just to let you know that we should get Jonathan Gonzalez in the Liga MX's, is it the Liguilla final? You're knocking some wood. Yeah, I shouldn't be too confident, right?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Shouldn't be too confident.
But they did win 1-0 away. That is the key distinction there.
It certainly is. All right. Final thing on today is scouting reports. But first, Taylor, today's show is sponsored by Fucci of Fucci Rebounder fame.
There we are, yeah, makers of the highly engineered soccer rebounder that combines soccer and squash. You basically hit the ball against the net, it bounces back, you got to react to it as quickly as you can.
Or if you can slow it down like bullet time, like the Matrix, you can take your time and play a really nice shot back. If you just go panicking in there and try and hit it as fast as you can, you're going to miss the net.
I'm sorry, was that if you control space and time, then you can slow things down?
I mean, mentally.
What are you suggesting today? You've got some weird ideas going on up there.
I'm suggesting you just be nice and calm, play it back, and that's how you win the Fucci game. You can check out YouTube videos for evidence of how you win a Fucci game.
Sure.
On both our parts. So the question we have today is, which team at the World Cup could most use a Fucci? Which team at the World Cup, after the group stages were drawn today, could most use a Fucci rebounder?
I've gone slightly obvious, but for defensible reasons, I've gone with Brazil. And it's because, as I said, I think they're going to get a lot of shooting opportunities against a lot of compact defenses, but that means they're going to get rebounded balls of a goalkeeper save. It's going to be block shots, spilling that maybe they can take advantage of, and Fucci will teach them how to react to those even faster and more successfully.
I would argue they need to take their time and finish those chances. They also need to bounce back because their last World Cup
Take their time with one touch to finish those chances? Gotcha.
Their last World Cup game did not go that well.
All right. So then thank you for making my case for me. So it's Brazil, we've decided?
It is Brazil because they need to bounce back.
Okay. Is that what you had as well?
Yeah, well, It was my first option. You notice I said I'm going to have two options for this because I thought you might go Brazil.
Gotcha. So who have you got?
England. England because, one, they need to bounce back from recent tournament performances of all types, World Cup 2014 and Euro 2016. But two, do you remember I was talking recently about the Rio Ferdinand, Frank Lampard thing, and there wasn't much sort of team camaraderie because they were all in their separate camps, like the Chelsea camp and the Man United camp. Fucci could be a good team-building exercise for the England players. You could even do it in pairs. You could pair up Chelsea players with Man United players, make them get along, for example.
And also because so few
if Chelsea have any England players.
So few of the best teams also employ England players, so that alleviates some of the cliquishness as well, I'd imagine.
That's harsh. There'll be a Man City clique this time, I would imagine.
Of two people?
Of maybe Fabian Delph.
Sure.
He might make it.
Okay.
So you think actually that might
be Kyle Walker. Yeah, you're up to four.
There
okay,
you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Fucci for team building. I would say this works not just for World Cup teams as well. Your club team could buy a Fucci rebounder, use it in practice to have some fun, as we did with our team when we played backyard Fucci. Remember that with
I do indeed.
The one big floodlight that we all played under?
Yep.
So that video is also available on YouTube.
So if people want to get themselves a Fucci Dale Grove, what can they do?
Well, now is the best time because Fucci are already running a holiday discount of $50 off. You can get, in addition to that, you can get $20.17 off at playfucci.com. If you use the discount code TSS2017, that's TSS 2017, for an extra $20.17 off of Fucci, and it will arrive in time for Christmas.
And I'm assuming they ship to Brazil. I'm assuming they ship to Brazil and England. Why not?
Yeah, why not indeed? Via TSS Tower.
Sure.
All right, thank you to Fucci for sponsoring today's show.
Alrighty, and that moves us on to the Scouting Network, I do believe, Dale Grove.
It does. We have many scouting reports to read today. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'll go first. Okay. Up first is Beth Jolly and Alex Barone getting Kylian Mbappe, 18-year-old French forward for PSG. Kylian went the full 90 in PSG's 2-1 victory at AS Monaco on Sunday. He was lustily booed by his former fans every time he touched the ball, which may have unnerved him as he struggled through a frustrating performance. He looked to shoot slightly too often and was so sloppy at times that Thiago Silva joked he might still be playing for Monaco. However, Beth and Alex say that Neymar and Kylian appear to be progressing significantly in the fluency of their on-field understanding, and Mbappe is looking increasingly decisive, usually for the better, in his decision-making. In later news, Kylian's teammates have nicknamed him Donatello for his alleged resemblance to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Donatello. Thiago Silva even gave him a TMNT mask delivered in a Dior box. Apparently, it is a luxury Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mask.
I wish it was a USMNT mask. Then we could get him on the team. Up next, Kim and Oliver Dabu are scouting Will Hughes.
Well, I can't let this one go. What would a USMNT mask look like? Would it just be like an American flag? And do you think that would work?
I don't know what the technology is, but it would be a way to get Kylian Mbappe onto the US men's national team.
So magic. Got it.
Magic,
Cool.
yeah.
All right.
Kim and Oliver Dabu are scouting Will Hughes, the 22-year-old English midfielder for Watford. Hughes started again for Watford, hooray, and scored again with a gorgeous left-footed strike at the weekend, helping his team to a 3-0 win over Newcastle. Oh, we saw this because DeAndre Yedlin was involved. Things didn't go as well on Tuesday when the Hornets fell to Man United and Hughes went out in the second half with a hamstring injury. Team has confirmed he will miss the next match, which is against Tottenham.
John Adams, not that one, scouting Sheon Harrison, 20-year-old English striker for Tottenham. The Spurs U21 side crashed out of the EFL trophy, finishing bottom of their group following their 2-1 loss to Barnet. The Barnet match started well for young Spurs and Sheon Harrison, who latched onto a well-hit cross in the 16th minute to give his team the lead. After the half, however, things unraveled as young Spurs gave away a very soft own goal early on and then saw the Barnet winner hit the net at the hour mark.
Daniel Jones is scouting Cody Cropper, the 24-year-old American goalkeeper for New England Revolution, soon to be coached by... Oh dear, it's already in there.
Yep.
I read ahead. Sorry, Daniel Jones says Cropper was one of the few players who survived Brad Friedel, new coach, Brad Friedel's overhaul of the New England defensive system as the club exercised his contract option. That means they kept him, right? Friedel commented that 60 goals were too many to have conceded last season, and the club, therefore, did not renew contracts of several defenders or defensive mids, including DP midfielder Xavier Kouassi and starting defender Andrew Farrell.
Surprising.
I thought Andrew Farrell was going to be sort of possible US right back or defensive midfielder of the future.
Well, Brad Friedel disagrees.
Certainly
Or maybe
does.
he still will be, just not for New England. Michael Thompson scouting Chris Gloucester, 17-year-old American left back for the New York Red Bulls Academy. Note, not the senior team or the USL team.
I pay attention, I heard.
There are rumors that Chris Gloucester was on trial at Schalke over the Thanksgiving week, along with Taylor Booth and Zion Jones, I'm going to say Zion, of the RSL and Atlanta United Academies, respectively. Gloucester still hasn't signed a pro contract with the Red Bulls or Red Bulls 2, so is theoretically still free to go wherever he wants once he turns 18 in July of next year.
Sounds like that's his plan, right? If he's waited this long, he's going to wait till he's 18, and if he's got a European offer, he's going to get on that plane to Germany.
Unless he can leverage a couple trials into maybe pay me a little bit more and I'll stick around.
Or maybe play me.
Also that.
I mean, if there's any place to be as an American teenager that you could get minutes, it's either New York Red Bulls or RSL right now. Those are the two best spots to be in. All right, Josh Dolar is scouting Blake Bodley, the 19-year-old American left midfielder at the University of Washington with the incredible name. Josh says Blake's season came to a close as Washington lost to the University of Seattle in overtime during the opening round of the playoffs. Blake provided a nice assist from a one-touch cross from the end line that opened the scoring and had a few shots that were just off target. Josh says he is uncertain what Blake will do next season, mostly because he doesn't fully understand college soccer yet.
I appreciate Josh's honesty.
So calling the playoffs, isn't it sort of, you call it the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Isn't the NCAA men's
Men's
college soccer
Division
tournament?
1 soccer tournament,
There you
yes.
go.
It's a whole thing. Ryan Marzak scouting Pione Sisto, 22-year-old Danish midfielder for Celta Vigo. Pione started and played 76 minutes in Celta's 1-0 victory over Leganes. Sisto played out wide on the left in a 4-4-2, but wasn't able to find the back of the net. That said, he is currently La Liga's assist leader with 8 assists in 13 matches.
Wait, but that's after you remove all the Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Valencia players.
Don't forget that Real Madrid have had some struggles to score of late this season.
So Sisto has the most assists in La Liga.
So I've been told.
Pione Assisto is his new name. Pione Assisto.
How long have you been working on that one?
Literally 2 seconds. Skylar Olsen is scouting Dylan Cerna.
The sincerity of your eyes really sold that one. No, right now.
Skylar Olsen is scouting Dylan Cerna, the 23-year-old American midfielder for the Colorado Rapids. Cerna, who is a homegrown player, has signed a new contract with the Rapids. Cerna was shortlisted in October for the 2017 MLS Comeback Player of the Year award, which he lost out onto Clint Dempsey. He made 20 appearances in 2017, 1 goal, 1 assist, as he returned from a season-ending injury in 2016, saw him sidelined for many months.
Welcome back, Dylan. Nick Renone, scouting Freddie Woodman, 20-year-old English goalkeeper for Newcastle. Freddie Woodman of U20 World Cup fame has been seeing lots of action and making all kinds of saves playing for Newcastle's U23s, by which Nick means the Newcastle U23s are laughably bad at defending, with the phrase clean through on goal featuring way too regularly in match reports, and Woodman making save after save in results like Newcastle U23s 0, Aston Villa U23s 6.
I like it. I think you get lots of practice playing for a very bad team if you're the goalkeeper.
I think you get practice. I don't know if it's fun practice.
You pad your highlight reel.
It's more like shelling than anything.
Mike Spinelli is scouting George Bello, 15-year-old American left-back for Atlanta. He was mentioned on yesterday's show. Mike says the US under-17s fell 1-0 to England in their first match of the Nike International Friendlies on Wednesday. Bello captained the team, played the full 80 minutes. That's not a typo. The whole team seemed to be using a hack-a-Brit strategy, and Bello was no different as he picked up an early yellow card. I saw him body opposing players off the ball with ease, benefiting from his relative stature in spite of his age. I also saw him speed down the flank on overlapping runs and hoof it back to shut down several attacks. Encouraging stuff from the American Paolo Maldini. I agree, I watched chunks of this game and Bello was the standout for the United States, apart from the goalkeeper who made a ton of saves.
So I was going to ask, though, should we be slightly disappointed about that result, given that the previous iteration of the U17s won the last Nike Friendlies in very convincing style?
Maybe, except that the last iteration of the Nike International Friendlies was the second go round, right? So this is the group that they're 15. They're going to be the under 17 team for 2019.
There we go.
Meaning it'll be this group plus some ins and outs and changes that will be playing next year's Nike International Friendlies, where they'll be a year older, which is a long year when you're 15 to 16, right? So yeah, it's just the beginning. Let's put it that way.
That makes me feel better. Ryan Marzak again scouting Josh Onoma, 20-year-old English midfielder on loan at Aston Villa from Tottenham. Onoma started for Aston Villa in both of their championship matches last week. Against Sunderland, Josh scored his third championship goal of the season with a great strike from 20 yards out that took a wicked deflection and dipped right into the far corner.
They all count.
It wound up being the winner in a 2-1 victory. Villa also played Ipswich Town midweek, with Josh once again featuring prominently, and came away with a 2-0 clean sheet.
Man, Aston Villa have fallen so far that it seems like one of their best players is a guy on loan from a Premier League team.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
But Steve Bruce is there, so that's good.
Disappointed. Steve Renard is scouting Yuri Tillemans, the 20-year-old Belgian midfielder from Monaco. Steve says Tillemans had a rough time in Monaco's 2-1 loss to PSG. Oh, that was the Mbappe game for top of the show, yeah? He was partially at fault for PSG's first goal due to a miscommunication with Kamil Glik and wasn't involved in Monaco's only goal of the match. More worryingly, he was subbed off in the 67th minute with an injury to his meniscus, which will now require surgery.
Doesn't sound like it's like a very bad injury, but certainly he'll miss at least a couple of weeks.
There are knives involved.
And has already missed one Liga match. Final report of the day comes from Matt Compton scouting Juan Pablo Torres, 18-year-old American midfielder for Sporting Lokeren. You guys talked about him on the Top Drawer Soccer Show as well, correct?
Certainly did, yeah.
On November 19th, Juan Pablo got his first start for Sporting Lokeren in Belgium's top flight. Torres played the full 90 in a 3-0 loss to Ghent, and by all accounts, showed well. He's been an unused substitute in their last two matches since that defeat.
Yeah, if you'd like to hear more about Juan Pablo Torres, definitely listen to this week's Top Drawer Soccer Show, where Travis and I sort of look at three of the stranger paths that you can use to get from being a young American player to professional soccer, and Juan Pablo Torres going to Belgium is certainly one of them.
There we are.
So thank you to Beth and Alex and Kim and Oliver and John and Daniel and Michael and Josh and Ryan and Skylar. I'm keeping all the ands in. And Nick and Mike and Ryan and Steve and Matt for all of today's scouting reports.
And the reports have been coming in thick and fast, I'll say. And I'm going to say sort of long and fast. And remember what the Bard said about brevity, my friends.
What did he say?
The soul of wit.
Brevity is the soul of wit and the soul of a good scouting report.
Indeed.
As is watching your player.
Yeah.
You have to watch 90 minutes, but watch the 2-3 minute highlight video you can find. You'll see great stuff from your player. If he's done it, it'll be in there.
I would agree.
Yeah, all right. If you'd like to join the Scouting Network, it's TotalSoccerShow.com/join. If you'd like to buy a TSS t-shirt, there are only, 4 days left to do so to get them in time for Christmas. TotalSoccerShow.com/merch. If you're waiting on your player, you've signed up for the Scouting Network. There have been so many people signed up. I really am finding it hard to get all the assignments out. If you are impatient, email me, Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, at TotalSoccerShow.com. Tell me you're waiting. I will get your player to you as quickly as I can. I promise. Go ahead and jump the queue.
And you say you'll be completely caught up by 10 p.m. this evening? Is that correct?
I do not. I'll have a good go, though. I've got some time for you. You're talking me to do more work here. Oh, well, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We always sincerely appreciate it. We know other podcasts are available, so we love it when you listen to ours. We'll be back late Sunday night with our review of all the weekend action.